Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Smoke and Mirrors. We are here on a nice Friday, and as you can see, we have a new face here. So, as always, I'm your host, Stefan Polius, alongside Declan Krogman, and our special guest, Chuck from the Sports List. Chuck, how you doing, my man?
Not too bad. Sweating. It's really hot outside.
Yesterday was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's gross. It's nasty. Nasty.
You got AC, bro?
Of course.
All
Thank
right,
God.
cool. All right. How you doing, Deck?
Pretty good. Always nice to see Chuck in the building, whether it's at a men's league game or on a Sports Hitler Zoom. Always happy to see our boy Greg. We miss him, of course, as always. But
Yes.
a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. I mean, what a night last night.
What a night last night for sure. Greg is enjoying himself right now. He did a nice little road trip. He's not worried about us. Maybe he's checking it out though. I hope he has some time to see what we have to talk about.
He's already in the comments section.
Yeah, perfect. Love it. What's up, Greg? But yeah, like you said, Deck, it was a huge night last night, a momentous occasion really for baseball, where you had the Yankees and the White Sox playing at the Field of Dreams Stadium in Dyersville, Iowa. So if you didn't watch it, you should go back and watch it because it was just special. That opening ceremony was very awe-inspiring. Having Kevin Costner come out the cornfield, walk around, had the piano playing, felt really nice. And then you got the Yankees and the White Sox coming out of the cornfield. Just, man, it gave me chills. It was really nice to see that. Even Kevin Costner's speech was really great. And the rest of the game played very much like a damn movie. Really exciting baseball. Sorry, Chuck and Deck. I know your Yankees lost, but in spectacular fashion. I mean, Tim Anderson, way to walk off a game, hitting a home run into the cornfield. But I want to start with you, Chuck, as our guest. What'd you make of the game? Was it your same old Yankees, or do you feel a little bit better about that offense and how they looked, minus obviously having Britton come in and just cough up a lead?
Well, first, I want to shout out Greg for giving me this opportunity to host for him today. Greg, I hope you're having fun. We miss you. We love you. Have a safe trip. But Steph, I agree with you 100%. That beginning ceremony was so cool. And I thought it was really well put together.
Yeah.
And out to Carl, who was my comp professor in college. I'm sure that he loved the camera angles and how the whole thing was orchestrated and portrayed. It was a really fun game. But speaking of Carl, he came into the baseball chat yesterday talking all spicy, how the Yankees are, that if they go on a run in the postseason, I'm going to have to come and make an apology. And what did they do? They played typical Yankee baseball last night. Mm-hmm. They had a lead, and then they used their analytics, brought Britton in the ninth to close it out. I don't know why Britton's been bad all year and whatnot. And then he came in and he blew the game. Like, that would have been such a great win, coming back off one of the better closes in the game in Liam Hendricks, and then they go out and blow in the ninth. So we've seen this all year. I think they have the most blown saves in baseball. It was just a typical Yankee game and a typical Yankee loss.
Deck, you have the same feelings?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the whole Britton and ninth inning ordeal goes, I feel very similar. But as far as the actual game went, I mean, that was the game of the year. I mean, I didn't even find myself that upset. Like, I knew it was going to happen. First of all, the second I saw Britton up in the pen, I was like, oh, Yanks just put up 4 runs in the ninth for nothing. I don't know why they didn't go to Loaizaga. Loaizaga is the man in that situation. We just saw Britton blow a nice save against Kansas City, against the Royals.
Yeah.
Against the Royals 2 days ago. So why they felt the need to bring him in the ninth inning against a pure right-handed team when you just had a left-hander pitch 2 innings in Wandy Peralta just right in front of him. Makes no sense to me. But I don't necessarily blame Boone as much as I blame Britton, and here's why. You cannot walk. You get the first out, that's great. You cannot walk the 9-hitter, the 4th-string catcher, literally behind Grandal, Mercedes, the other guy they got, and I think his name is Dylan something, or is it Flowers? I don't know who it is, but the fourth catcher on the White Sox in that organization, you cannot walk him after being up 0-2 on him. You then lose him by throwing 4 balls, and the umpire strike zone was really about as wide as Iowa itself. I mean, it was unbelievable, inconsistent too, and the fact that you couldn't get a nice strike 3 call there is what lost you the game. But who had any doubts? I mean, we all knew Zach Britton was going to throw a low and away sinker. Tim Anderson was going to put it in the cornfields. And you know what? The game lived and died in the cornfield, and it ended in the cornfield. Yeah. So it was happy to see from that regard. I wasn't upset, but what a ninth inning altogether. I mean, that's the game of the year. I mean, you see Judge with the two-run homer. Mm-hmm. Judge with the two-run homer, his second of the game. I mean, he was excellent yesterday.
And Stanton, too.
And then Stanton, I mean, second Gallo walked. I'm like, okay, a home run actually gives them the lead. Forget about tying this. And Hendricks hangs that slider. He's huffing and puffing, all, falling apart on the mound. And he hangs that slider. And for a no-doubt homer, for what it seemed like a no-doubt homer, he almost robbed that in left field in Jimenez. So
off the bat, it looked like it was going to travel. And I was surprised it was a lot closer than,
especially it felt like it was a BAM box in Iowa too. Mm-hmm. Like even Stanton said was it Ken Rosenthal or Tom Verducci said pregame, it looks like the ball is carrying here, and 8 home runs. I mean, it really did. Can you imagine if we had a professional team in Iowa? We could be looking at Colorado numbers. It was unbelievable.
No, it truly was. They made for really great baseball, and it's a win for the MLB. Like this, to me, this presentation, how they put this together, it's years in the making. It felt right, and it's great for, again, baseball, for the ratings, for the fans. The casual fan can enjoy this game, and I'm happy to see that they're implementing this and they're making these attempts to like make it fun, make it enjoyable. The connection to Field of Dreams, the movie, back in the 80s, to bring it back now it's great. And it was the right teams at the right time. Yeah. And as far as the Yankees go, it's one of those situations where, Chuck, I know you're like, oh, they're not this team, right? They're on the winning streak. They've been doing well. I shouldn't say streak, but they've been playing better baseball for sure. Some poor decisions. And again, when you have the nerds, the analytics that tell you should play this way when the eye test is telling you a whole different story, you're going to run into issues. The Mets are seeing that as well. And we talked about that on Monday. Speaking of the Mets, though, my Mets, it's a story of triumph. After coming off of a awful Phillies series where they got swept, they went up against the Nats on starting Tuesday and swept them, which was everything they needed and more going into this Dodgers series starting today. And it was a lot of theatrics. I mean, the beginning of game 1 on Tuesday, or rather that game itself, looked like it was going to be the same old Mets being dominated at every point of the game. But the late inning theatrics were everything. Just the timely hits. You had solid performances. J.D. Davis finally showing up and being a catalyst for that team, hitting a double. I believe it was in the 7th inning or the 8th inning, rather. And like being able to cash in the runs when they're out there with runners in scoring position was huge. So that game 1 win for the Mets, coming back and having Edwin Diaz should only be in the game when it's a close, like when it's a safe opportunity, period. There's no reason that he's pitching outside of that, because when the game's on the line for a save, he is the guy. And I think that we're seeing that time and time again. But game 1, game 2, so it was a rain out. You weren't able to play game 2, but seeing them play the doubleheader yesterday was awesome, because you have, again, the theatrics. Stroman gives you a really good start in game 2, going 5 1/3 with 8 Ks, only giving 1 earned run. And then the bullpen does what it has to do, Loop and Diaz. And then in game 3, Trevor Williams was surprising to me. I wasn't expecting that from him. It was only 4 1/3, but he had played solid baseball. Really gave him a chance to win, left the game with the lead. And of course, Trevor May comes in and does what Trevor May does, which is just give up runs. But shout out to Pete Alonso, who loves to be the positive mind, the one that's always looking at the brighter side. He made the difference and had the walk-off home run for the Mets. This is the momentum that you need to have going against a very tough Dodgers team. Deck, what do you make of this series? And as far as the Mets going up against the Dodgers, which we're going to cover that preview right after this, but what do you think it means for them going into this next series?
Well, I think this is big to get the momentum like that. I know the Nationals sold most of their team to the Dodgers, or at least they're big opponents of it.
Yeah.
To play the current Nationals and to make sure, did they sweep them? They took 2 out of 3, because I know they swept the doubleheader.
The Mets?
Yeah, or did they only play two?
No, it's 3. So they won on Tuesday, the
Okay.
9-inning game, and then they took the doubleheader.
Because I know they were down.
3-game series.
Soto had a 3-run homer against Carrasco in that first inning of the game, and then they bounced back. But I think it's really important for them to get this win in that series, especially going up against a team like the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna need all the help they can get. I think they're gonna be really overmatched, and it's gonna be unfortunate. But I think that the Nationals getting that win now, especially because I think they're gonna get overmatched by the Dodgers and they're gonna lose the series. Making sure you get the beat up on the teams that you're supposed to beat up on is so important. If they were to ever lose that series to the Nationals, now we're talking about them being in third place.
Yeah.
Going into the series, they're going up against the NL West gauntlet. They got the Giants too. I think they play the Giants like twice this month. They have a really tough
Giants twice, Dodgers twice.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough going forward. But to get the win against the series win against and the sweep against the Nationals, that's going to be important. But are they in second place now?
Half a game out, second place.
Half a game out and in second place. Yeah, so they're going to need some help from the Braves and the Phillies. More so the Phillies. The Phillies are in first.
Phillies are in first. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be tough for them against the Nationals. Against the Dodgers. Dodgers offense has really been making moves lately and has been doing good. So they're coming off, and not the team you want to play when they're hot either. But hopefully the Mets are going to stay hot and make some noise here.
Chuck, what about you?
I think you guys both hit it right on the head. The Mets came off a brutal sweep to the Phillies, which saw them drop down to third place. And now they're playing a last place Nationals team that sold at the deadline. So they're not playing for anything. So it's key for the Mets to go out there, win those 3 games. The Mets are still in it. They're only, I think, a game out or whatever it is.
Half game. Mm-hmm.
There you go, even better. So it was key for them to get these 3 wins because they got a tough schedule coming up. As you said, they play the Dodgers. They're facing the top 3 Dodgers starters, today, tomorrow, and Sunday.
Yeah.
So now what's the word I'm looking for? There isn't as much pressure as, they still have to go out there and win, but it's not as, we just lost 2 out of 3 to the Nationals. So now these Dodger games become even more of a must win. So I think it eases them a little bit. They finally get themselves together because they played horrible baseball even before the Phillies series. So they've been really. So I think it was big for them to finally, turn the page. Alonso hitting the home run maybe gets him out of his slump. And who knows, a walk-off win can do a lot for a team. So I think that could be the boost that they need heading into, I would say, a playoff matchup against the Dodgers starting tonight.
It's going to feel like that for sure. So tonight, the Dodgers have Julio Urias, and we have the Mets have Tyler McGill. Saturday features Walker Buehler versus Taijuan Walker, and then you have Max Scherzer versus Carlos Carrasco on Sunday. It's not easy. Like you said, we're facing the top end of their lineup, of their pitching rotation. Urias has been amazing. He's been a really great, and he was since the playoffs, actually, honestly. He's been a solid arm, but as a starter this season, he's come into his own. McGill, I have faith in to perform well and give him a chance. Taijuan Walker's coming off of a game where he gave up 3 earned runs after, giving up 4 or 5 in each game prior to that. Against Buehler, it's really tough for me to see that win. I honestly think the Mets' best chance of winning is tonight, just because Cookie isn't back. Cookie isn't back the way he needs to be. He's still a very hit, and against that lineup, they are without Mookie Betts. Mookie's back on the IL with that naggy hip injury that's been bothering him all year. That's one less power bat to have to worry about, but they have a bunch of hitters in that lineup. So yeah, I have the Mets potentially taking it tonight, but Saturday and Sunday to me are you need the miracle. Like you need the Dodgers to have maybe some issues after flying to New York. One of some of the guys are a little off with the I guess there's no jet lag moving forward, right? But it's going to take some luck, just because this Mets team, even though coming off of this win and the momentum is big for them, they're not built to take on this team, at least without, having a stopper like DeGrom that can at least guarantee you one win or give you the chance at that one win.
Yeah, no guarantees of a win with the Mets offense, especially how they hit for DeGrom. But I agree with you. I think Friday the 13th, Mets are back in black, Citi Field. It's going to be a vibe. Hopefully,
Yes.
someone watching is going. Whether you're a Mets or a Dodgers fan, I totally agree with you, Steph. Tonight is their best chance to win. Urias is really good, but he's beatable, especially more beatable compared to Walker Buehler, who's probably going to win the Cy Young if it stays with the way it stands right
Yeah.
now,
Mhm.
and Max Scherzer, who is, I could just say his name and we know who he is. Max Scherzer. There's no further elaboration needed, especially when Cookie's been throwing 4 innings, at a clip here.
Yeah, definitely. So, real quick, Chuck, before you go, we have a bit of a surprise guest. Wasn't expecting this, but I'm gonna let him in and let him talk their stuff.
Whoa!
As you can see, Nola Greg has joined the chat.
Hold on. I'm here. So I don't know if you guys, what's going on, guys?
What's going on,
What's
sir?
up?
You look heavily protected.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
So I don't know if y'all saw, but Manny was in the comments talking about the Mets getting swept. So I came on here just to shout Manny out and let the world know that Manny is not a Yankee fan. He is actually a White Sox fan, parading around as a Yankee fan. So he needs to cut the malarkey.
I think this is fair. He was a little
Yeah.
too excited for Tim Anderson, a little too quiet. I think it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Okay, so it is now confirmed in the hitless streets that Manny is a White Sox fan. That's fine, but I don't want to hear none of this Mets getting swept. But yeah, White Sox gonna win the World Series stuff, and you're a Yankee fan.
Manny got Greg to come on vacation.
That's all I came on here to say. Keep up the good work, fellas.
How
Appreciate
fogged up are your glasses right now?
It's in and out.
Bro, appreciate you for coming on. It's always good seeing you. Enjoy the rest of
Likewise.
NOLA.
Be safe.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Be safe. Yeah. I agree. Manny was a little bit too excited. Tim Anderson was his MVP pick, right? That's why he's like gassing it. Yeah.
I think it was. Well, Aaron Judge was my MVP pick. I wasn't, going parading around.
Yeah. So on Monday we're going to be covering how this series went down. Hopefully, we'll be talking about the win today, and some close, like some well played games on Saturday and Sunday. I don't need them to get blown out. Like if they play hard, that to me does go a long way going into the series with the Giants, because it decimates your morale if you get destroyed by the Dodgers to start off these 13 games that you're going to be playing against two top NL West division like rivals. Yeah, so we'll see what goes down there. I want to touch on and start talking about a little football. We haven't really had football talk. I mean, we had the little debate with you and Greg Deck, but we actually had some.
We were kind of on a similar.
I mean, it was supposed to be a debate. It was supposed to be a debate, and we all know that you were a brand new Deck at that point in time, and it's perfectly fine. It threw us all for a loop, but debate still, we built it as that, so that's what it was. We'll call it that. But yes, so we do have some football finally that we could talk about. So we have preseason games that took place. We have the Washington football team, which I don't know if they're changing their name still. I think it's in the
next year.
Still talking about it
Next year.
Next year for sure. Okay. So the Washington football team, WFT versus the Patriots, and you have the Steelers versus the Eagles. And really, I mean, there weren't any first team offenses didn't score a touchdown in this one. So it wasn't like, there's a bunch to talk about. But what I did find interesting was Heineke, he played well. He played well enough in this one. Not like he did anything outstanding. He was 9 for 15 for 86 yards. But maybe trade bait for Washington if they wanted, because they're riding Fitzpatrick. But I would at least put the name out there because there are going to be some quarterback-hungry teams that might want a Heineke and then give him a chance, especially seeing how he played well last season towards the end of the season. You also have another shout-out was Chase Young. Man, like, way to start off this season strong. I honestly felt like there was barely a defender. Like, he didn't have to weave past that offensive lineman. Like, it was too easy for him to get to Cam Newton. But
it's Daniel Jones' fault that he's not a Giant, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, Daniel Jones. We can get to him, but I I mean, the Washington football team did end up losing, but one of the questions I have for you, and Chuck, I'll start with you. You had Mac Jones and Cam Newton. Cam Newton started the game, and Mac Jones played a majority of the snaps. Mac Jones finishing 13 for 19 for 87 yards. And then you had Cam Newton, who was 4-7 for 49 yards. Where do you see this falling as far as this quarterback situation? Is there a possibility that you see Mac Jones starting this season over Cam?
No, I think Cam getting his reps with the first team and the contract that he signed in the offseason, I think Cam is the week 1 starter. Yeah. Will he be the starter by week 4? That I can't comment on. I think it's just dependent on how Cam plays. Cam hasn't been the same since all the shoulder injuries and whether other injuries he's had over his career, which is unfortunate because he was such a great quarterback, when he was at top of his game. But I think Cam's a week 1 starter. I think what Bill's doing with Mac Jones is just giving him as many reps as he can. So I think we're going to see that a lot with rookie quarterbacks. I know Zach Wilson is going to play tomorrow. Trevor Lawrence plays tomorrow. Justin Fields, I think, plays tomorrow also, but I'm not sure about that. So I think you're going to see all these rookies getting as many reps as possible. But Cam will be the week 1 starter.
Yeah. Dak, you on the same page?
Yeah, I agree with Chuck. I don't see a scenario where Mac starts out week 1. I think that Cam Newton's been getting the first team reps, signed that $14 million one deal contract in the offseason. But I do think things will change around the week 4, week 5. We could see Fields get some action. We could see Mac Jones get in because I think the Patriots right now, although they're not the best team, they're going to want to – listen, it's a play. The Mahomes model works for certain teams. I don't think that's the main model that teams like to use. In the NFL today, the best experience for rookies is reps. And I think that they're going to give Mac Jones, I feel like, is going to start 10 games this year. I really think so, or maybe even more, because they're going to really want to use him and get him going.
The Mahomes model. Sorry, the Mahomes model. You mean like sitting a year and then starting as a sophomore?
Yes.
Okay. I mean that's pretty popular before this point. So even before Mahomes, was
right? That's more of an old. That's more of an old school thought.
Yeah.
That's more of an old school thought, and I think that works when you have a team that has a playoff roster that's constructed to win, and you could win with Alex Smith. Like that team went to the playoffs. The Patriots with Cam Newton at the helm and with that team, that roster, everything is not going to make the playoffs. It's just not happening. They're just not that. They're not that guy, pal. That's not their team. But I think getting reps for Mac will be important. I'm a little upset that it's 120. It was 120, and we stopped talking about baseball. But I think to talk about the preseason and Taylor Heineke, you bring up a great point, Steph. He could be used as trade bait, but I wouldn't rule out that he might not potentially be the starter if Ryan Fitzpatrick gets outplayed by that much in camp. Fitzpatrick, as good as he is old, and I think he's a good fit for that team. But you never know which way they want to go. Ron Rivera really likes Heineke. He played great in that playoff game. I mean, let's keep in mind they almost eliminated Tampa Bay, who wound up winning the Super Bowl. That was an 8-point game, and I think they got screwed by the refs a little bit down the stretch. I mean, he did play really good. So it'd be worth a watch. Chase Young has been supporting him, saying he's a dog. Scary Terry McLaurin, same deal. So it should be interesting to see what happens in Washington. They'll probably give it to Fitz, but I don't think they're so locked in because it's week 1 of the preseason and there's a lot of time left.
Yeah, I think Fitz is the week 1 starter. I think he gives them their best chance to win. This is one of the best teams that he's had talent-wise around him in a while. And I think even with just how Ron Rivera speaks about Fitz, that he's going to be his guy. And he has a longer leash than most might, a longer leash than he's had in his career. I mean, his time with the Jets, it was like he was the starter, but you always were waiting for for the Fitz magic to wear off and start talking about, the backup coming in. So I'm happy for Fitz. I think he can lead this team pretty well. He's very fearless with throwing the ball down the field, and he'll make Scary Terry a better player as far as the quarterbacks he's had so far.
Yes, totally. I mean, he came up with Dwayne Haskins, then Alex Smith, who has comeback player of the year, but he wasn't using his legs, so there was a different dynamic there. And they had what the hell is his name? Kyle Allen as well. All guys that Fitzpatrick are better than. So
yeah.
Definitely. Well, I think we also got to remember at the end of the day, as much as Fitzpatrick has been a talking point for the NFL because he's just an average guy who could win a couple of games, he's still just a serviceable quarterback. He isn't like this star in the league. So if Ron decides that he wants to go with Heineke week 1, I think that's a plausible decision to make. And I don't think there'll be any backlash from anyone. You saw, like Declan said in the playoff game, Heineke put it all out on the line. So why are we to believe that Ron might not say, you know what, maybe this is my week 1 guy, and let Fitz be that backup plan just in case things start to go south. So if Heineke starts week 1, I wouldn't be. I actually think that he's probably a better option than Fitzpatrick.
Wow. I wouldn't say that. I think that Fitzpatrick, his track record, especially how he played last season before Tua went in for him, which even when they swapped out Tua for Fitz, everyone was surprised. Fitz himself was shocked.
They didn't make the postseason because of it.
I mean, Fitzpatrick was that the heart of that team and getting them the wins they needed. It wasn't like, the running game or, the defense. Fitzpatrick was the main reason why they had a chance to win. So I really don't see a scenario where Heineke starts. I think, especially as the veteran, you get the veteran the first chance, and then it's like, all right, if he messes up, then Heineke comes in, and everyone gets excited about Heineke, right? Like, he's not breathing down Fitz's neck, but the fan base has seen enough from him from last year to be at least excited if Fitzpatrick starts to falter early or even, later in the season. But I just think it would be a mistake if Ron Rivera decided to go against, because Fitzpatrick also is just really good in the locker room. I don't think there's a team that he's been on that guys don't love him or the media doesn't love him. Like, he is typically a good locker room guy. And when when it's kind of the consensus maybe or understanding you're going to be the starter, then it doesn't go that way, you could lose some players too off of that. And that's not to say guys don't like Heineke, but Fitzpatrick to me is definitely the week 1 starter. I hear where you're coming from though, where he's just a serviceable guy. He's not the stud that you have to go with. But yeah, I'm sitting Fitz at a week 1 starter for sure. And I think he'll have most of the season starting for the Washington football team unless he gets hurt. So I want to shift gears to Steelers and Eagles. Did you guys watch that game at all? No, right?
I was watching.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't sure if you were trying to flip between.
Field of Dreams was on.
I don't really care. I wouldn't watch an Eagles regular season game. I already know they're going 4-13. It doesn't matter.
What I did find interesting about this game though was Haskins, right? To me, that was one of the more interesting stories. Haskins 16-22 for 161 yards and a touchdown. He led 4 consecutive scoring drives. This is the same Haskins that we're talking about a year ago as a joke. If I'm not mistaken, didn't his baby mom or his girlfriend punch him out? That happened?
His wife got arrested.
Okay,
He kept his tooth, something like that.
Tooth knocked out.
Something wild.
It was all these negative headlines about Haskins, and it kind of seemed like his career was over. And I'm not saying that a preseason game is going to revitalize him, but this is not the quarterback that we're used to seeing. So that was a big surprise. I'm happy for him being he's not a former. What pick did he go again? Was he
15th overall?
I thought I was going to say 14th. Okay, so still a highly touted draft pick. Good to see that. I mean, the between him and Mason Rudolph, I have no faith in Mason Rudolph. Honestly, I don't see him being more than what he's ever been. He's more known for being hit in the head with a helmet than any of his play on the field. But Haskins giving the Steelers a chance, maybe if Ben is out longer, if Ben goes down like he usually does during the season at some point. The Eagles were, it's the Eagles, like you said, Deck. It's going to be interesting to see how they play this year. There wasn't much there other than I think it's Quez Watkins, who was a sixth round pick from last year in 2020 season. He had a bubble screen that went for 79 yards. Kid's fast. He hasn't really had opportunities last season. There's not that much excitement necessarily around the Eagles, but it's good to see young players like that have a chance to maybe impact a fantasy roster, because that's how I was looking at it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to preseason football, I mean, you obviously want to see the rookies that your team drafted a couple months ago perform. So when the Jets play tomorrow, we're going to be watching Zach Wilson. I think Elijah Vera Tucker's hurt, so he's not playing. I hope Moore plays tomorrow. I'm really excited to see Moore. I want to see Michael Carter in the backfield. But besides the rookies, you also want to see what guys are going to be like your sleeper pick in fantasy.
Yeah.
I remember I did fantasy one year. It was a dynasty league, and because Mahomes performed so well in the preseason, I took Mahomes with like one of my last picks, and now he's the greatest quarterback in football.
Yeah.
So it just show that maybe preseason gives you a little bit of a glimpse as to what the future could behold, especially when it comes to fantasy.
Yeah, that's how I look at it as well, because you don't want to like glean too much from preseason games, but it is exciting when football comes back. So like watching those first few games is fun, but also the insight it does give you for some lesser known names that you could take later in drafts, which it could be the difference sometimes in you making that playoff push or not, picking up that young guy that no one's really looking at, that later on in the season, maybe midway through the season, starts getting the reps that they deserve. But yeah, I was scrolling around looking through all this like football stuff, and then saw Michael Thomas, right? So Michael Thomas didn't request a trade per se, but he tweeted this: "They tried to damage your reputation. You saved theirs by telling your side of the story." So there's a lot of people that are alluding to, Michael Thomas is looking to get out of New Orleans. And part of that had to do with the fact that all offseason, he hadn't answered any calls from the Saints, and just recently decided to get surgery on his ankle, which is going to put him out for quite a few weeks. Yeah. And apparently some of the trade rumors have quelled, those talks have quelled, only because there was a meeting between Michael Thomas and Sean Payton, and it was very positive apparently. And it's seeming like there's not going to be a split. The Saints don't want it, but Michael Thomas is seeming like he's a little bit happier after that conversation. I'm not making too much of this necessarily. It is interesting whenever a star receiver like Michael Thomas comes out and makes any kind of statement, because it can impact any of the team. We saw it with, when you had Deshaun Watson, and it was like, well, Deshaun's going to be out of Houston, but then obviously the controversy happened with him. So there's that issue. But even past Michael Thomas, their quarterback situation is still very messy. There's not necessarily a week one starter that you can name offhand, like we were just talking about Heineke and Fitzpatrick. But in the case of you have Hill and why am I forgetting his name now? Yes, Jameis Winston. Yes. Yeah, I afterthought, but Jameis Winston, like this Jameis Winston being the more traditional quarterback, giving you the ability to maybe win games when you're down big, or if you're just down at all. But no one has really stood out so far in the practices. And I mean, I honestly don't know, based on how Hill performed last season, that he is someone that you'd want to start with. Deck, what are your thoughts on this quarterback situation in New Orleans? Do you think that there is actually a deciding factor between the two? Who would you go with in this case? I know Sean Payton has his favorites, but what do you think is the best decision for them?
Yeah, I don't really think it's particularly close. I think it's Jameis Winston all the way. I'm a Jameis believer. I think that he can come back and lead this team to maybe not the wins that you would expect from them. I mean, this division's not up for grabs. I know they won it last year, but the Bucs are just so much better than them. But I really think that they could finish in second place. I think they're a better team than the Falcons, a better team than the Panthers. So that second place wild card is up for grabs in the NFC. Just because of the layout of the league and the extra wild card spot. But I'm a Jameis believer. I think that he's got a great arm. I think he's a threat to always throw. I mean, he threw 5,000 yards, or he had that season where he threw 30 picks and 30 touchdowns. Like
that was last season with Tampa Bay.
Crazy season. But he got the LASIK surgery, and now he could see the team, the players that are wearing the right jerseys, at least on the team, so he could throw teammates this time. But I'm a Jameis believer. I said it in the hit list a couple weeks ago. My hot take right now of the NFL season is I think that Jameis Winston is going to start for this team, do so good, especially if Michael Thomas whenever he gets back. I really think he could win comeback player of the year. I think he's really going to come back, and after not starting since Brady forced him out of Tampa Bay, or Tampa Bay forced him out of Tampa Bay, but Brady not starting last year for the Saints. spent a year under Drew Brees. Brees was a good mentor for him. I really think he can come out and just show out for New Orleans and be that guy that everyone wanted him to be. I don't think he's going to be great for them in the long run, but I believe in him. I think that he's going to be good. And I never said that I don't believe in Lamar. I just like Josh Allen more. I think he's a better quarterback. And what that has to do with another.
It's Manny in the comments. I'm like, who said that? Chuck, what are your thoughts on it?
I agree with Declan. As far as quarterback competition goes with the Saints, I think Jameis is your front runner. I don't know how Taysom Hill even has a chance to be the starter. We've seen Winston start in the NFL, over multiple seasons. And while he's not has put up, the potential of when he got drafted first, I believe. He's been all right. He's been an average guy, but what Taysom Hill brings nothing to the table for me. And it really disgusts me every time Sean Payton decides to throw him on the field, 10 times a game for some stupid gadget play that only goes like 5 yards. Like, when was the last time we saw a Taysom Hill gadget play that went for like 50 yards and a touchdown?
We saw a Jameis Winston gadget play that went for 50 yards for a touchdown against.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like Taysom Hill, he doesn't do anything for an offense. And especially with the way that the NFL is now, you're going to have to air out the ball. And I don't think Taysom Hill has the arm to even, do that. And now there's an aired game. So I don't know if Taysom Hill can do that over a 17-game, NFL season.
Yeah.
So it's very intriguing to see, I think Sean Payton is infatuated with Taysom Hill. I don't
Very
know
much
why.
so.
The questions still remain, but I think Jameis be their number one guy. And as far as the Mike Thomas situation goes, the word on the street is that he wanted to get surgery last year, but the Saints said no because it was Brees' final hurrah and they wanted to go on a playoff run. So they tried to, make him rehab it instead of getting the surgery. So I think that's why he made that tweet the other day, but I don't think he's going anywhere, Steph. I agree with you. I think they'll work through it. He's getting paid handsomely. He just started his big contract extension. So that'll be resolved, especially when it comes back around Thanksgiving or whatever. And hopefully Winston is throwing bombs to Thomas late in the season.
That would be great for football. I agree with you, Deck, that I want to see Winston win. I want to see him do well. Before his last time starting, he was prolific in yardage. He was getting the yards. He threw a lot of picks. As you said, he got the LASIK, so hopefully that'll help him. Seeing the teammates, his team, and hitting them instead of hitting the defenders. But I do agree. It was more so that there's been some reports out there just as, there's no decision on who's going to be the week one starter. And it's still very much a toss up. A lot has to do with Sean Payton's infatuation with Taysom Hill and thinking that he has the ability to be a quarterback in this league. As a gadget player, he's fun and he does add a wrinkle. But when he started, he was completing 58% of his passes, last season. He had a 53 touchdown to 31 interception ratio. He's in his time, playing for the Saints. That's really hard for me to see as a starter. But, I think the lack of a Drew Brees presence does hurt Alvin Kamara in the running game. Now that that there's not really the threat. And that depends on how Jameis looks, what he looks like when he's behind center, if he's giving them a chance. If he's turning the ball over like he did before, then some defense is going to get, you still want to have, you don't want to stack the box necessarily. But the Saints team without Drew Brees starts to look very vulnerable. The defense obviously is very good still. They did well last season, but I have a hard time imagining the Saints winning with Hill. But Sean Payton is always one to surprise, so he might just be leaning Hill to start the season. We'll hope not.
Catastrophe. It's with Taysom Hill, no offense. I like Taysom Hill. He's fun to watch.
Yeah,
he's older than Winston, by the way, by 4 years. But it's fun. He's fun to watch. But that really brings a high school level offense feel to that team. If you got Taysom Hill and you're going to run him, you're going to run Kamara. Now they're going to stack the box. I think it hurts Alvin Kamara's fantasy stock major if they go and start Taysom Hill because now they're not going to air the ball out. They don't have Michael Thomas as it is. Whereas with Jameis Winston, it's not like you got to really protect the pass. You're still going to stack the box a little bit because it's Alvin Kamara. But you know, at any given time that Jameis Winston could air it out 50 yards down the field in a dome
and beat you. Yeah.
Historically, we've seen, I know Drew Brees is great, but we've seen people come in there and just have shootouts after shootouts. And the Saints defense has never been amazing, but the shootouts would be real if Jameis Winston can be that guy. And I think he is.
We'll see.
I kind of disagree real quick about Kamara's stock. I think this actually helps him out, no matter who the quarterback is, and including the Michael Thomas injury, because Kamara is one of the few guys, and Sean Payton has done this, that can go split out wide. So he doesn't have to be that guy who has to line up in the backfield. Every time, every season that Kamara has been with the Saints, they've had another running back, like that big workhorse running back, whether it's Mark Ingram or Latavius Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys can line up in the backfield with, Winston or Hill or whatever, and Kamara could line up in the slot or maybe even in the X. And Payne has shown that he's creative enough to get the ball into Kamara's hands. And I think he knows that he can't have his quarterback just turn around and give it to Kamara, 40 times a game, because I don't think that's going to work out for anybody. But he's going to find ways to get the ball into his best playmaker's hands, especially with Thomas out. So I think Kamara's going to get more touches now that Thomas is out, and I think Kamara could do things and Kamara doesn't have to run downfield, 50 yards to catch a pass. You could hit him on a bubble screen. You could find underneath, and he could just catch the ball and use his elusiveness to get downfield. So I think Kamara will be perfectly fine. I expect him to get even more touches and even more yardage because now he's the main guy in that offense.
Not gonna lie, when Deck was speaking, I was like, yeah, maybe his stock is down. Maybe I should rethink drafting Kamara in a redraft league. And then Chuck went, I'm like, Chuck does make a good point.
One thing I'll say though is who else are you covering on that team? The defense is not going to game plan for Josh Hill, the tight end. Like they're going to look if you send Kamara out, that's where everyone's going to be focused on, especially if you send him out from the backfield. I agree with you that he'll get more touches, but at the same time, I think weapons, especially if it's not like an excess of weapons, where on the Saints it's Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, having a receiver that's a weapon and having a quarterback that can throw the ball helps a running back as great as he is, because now you're not going to be preparing for the run every play. That's just the way I see it. But I see both sides.
I do agree with you, and there will definitely be some games where not having, Breeze and Thomas could hurt him. But I don't think there are too many linebackers in the league that could keep up with Kamara's speed and elusiveness. So I think that's going to be key, because when Kamara's coming out of the backfield on, a screen or a toss or something, not many linebackers have that sideline to sideline speed. And I think that's where Kamara could do his most damage. Now, Devin White on the Bucs, he can definitely keep up with Kamara. Yeah. That guy's speed is off the charts. But in Kamara's case, I think there's a lot of linebackers that he could definitely get around. So when it comes to matchups, I think he's favorable in more matchups than not.
I agree, but if you open it up, and that's a great point, Chuck. But if you open him up to, going out to the X, going out to the Z in the slot, now you're going empty sets. Now they might not, especially if you don't have a Devin White. If they're not playing the Bucs, the defenses and their schemes and the coordinators will decide they might not go send the linebacker out. Then you might be opening up Kamara to corners and safeties. And there are some safeties that can keep up with him just because that's today's game. And we also have the game today where you see a lot more safeties being brought up in the box.
Yeah.
Harrison Smith is a guy I think of immediately. You send on the safety blitz. A lot of teams do that. So I think that there is something to think about. I think he'll still be really good. And I actually think with Kamara, having Winston over Breeze might help, especially because, we saw Breeze at the end there when his arm was shaky. He was throwing wobbly passes over 20 yards. They weren't moving.
Kind of like Peyton Manning at the end.
Totally. Absolutely like
Lame
Peyton.
ducks.
Not a shot on Breeze, but he got old. His arm got hurt, and, he's had a guy.
It happens.
Where he essentially had like the Tommy John of football as a quarterback. So that's the way I see it.
I will say, though, that a part of that equation to me is the defensive package. Because if Kamara's on the field, he's in the backfield, and then they split him wide, you're not going to have, necessarily the nickel package out, depending on what the down is. So I think Sean Payton is going to be gauging this based on what he's seeing on the field, which is going to give them the best opportunity to hit one of their best playmaker, because that's who Alvin Kamara is. He's their best playmaker right now with Michael Thomas out. So I do think the defensive package is going to dictate where he would be on the field and give him the best opportunity for the best matchup. And like Chuck said, he does match up against any linebacker pretty damn well in this league. And if you're talking about having a corner or, a safety on him, it does change the dynamic, but I still think he has a better chance of winning those matchups than not.
And also, it's only August 13th.
Yeah.
Like, there's still a month before the season even kicks off. So you don't know who's going to be traded, who's going to be cut. So the Saints could, what if the Jets turn around and decide they want to trade Crowder, who's in a walk year, and his replacement already, and Elijah Moore? You don't think the Jets might trade Crowder to the Saints for, a mid-round pick? Like you never know what could happen between now and the start of the season. So that's why I'm not too worried, and that's why you shouldn't do your fantasy drafts until a couple of days before the season kicks off. Because
Bateman's injury too.
Wise words.
Because a lot of things could change between now and then.
Yeah, and Deck, as you said, Bateman's injury. So Rashod Bateman has a groin injury. He's getting surgery, going to be out until maybe late September. But this is a Ravens wide receiver corps that was not good before this point, and he was going to be the shining star of that offense. They already have some guys that have missed time and haven't really had a chance to get right for this season. So Bateman going down hurts the Ravens. And Deck, you were talking about it on Monday with Greg, as far as, Lamar Jackson not being the quarterback he can be because he hasn't had the supporting staff.
And Bateman was a great pick too.
He was a great pick at the 27th pick. He was a great pick, and I think he would have been impactful. Hopefully, this groin injury only holds him out to late September. We'll see how he comes back from the surgery. But I honestly think this, and this is my feeling, a little biased. I think Devin Duvernay is he's going to be a low-key player. This is a guy that was drafted last season, has 26 targets, 20 catches last season. He's known for his sure hands. More snaps for Devin Duvernay now that Bateman is out. Hopefully they do look at him more because he is sure-handed. He does have the speed, mostly out of the slot because of his size. He has played the X in college, but he's more of a slot receiver. I think he has an opportunity to shine for Baltimore, and they need that guy because Hollywood Brown has just not been that. He has shown time and time again that he's, you can send him out on the fly route, but when it comes to, the mechanics and the footwork, not really there, doesn't have the hands, has potential, but really has not met that yet.
Yeah, I also think what's big with Hollywood Brown, not to make excuses for him, is that coming off his rookie year, he did really good during Lamar's MVP season when he had he was like 5'8", 158. Then he comes into camp 5'8", 180, did a great job putting on 22 pounds of muscle. But now it's a different body to adjust with, especially when you play the receiver position. That really, listen, it relies on skills and footwork. Footwork is so important when you're at that position. And now you're adjusting to a new body. Hopefully you have the offseason to kind of get back in the normal Hollywood Brown that we would expect and kind of get it right for him, So I think to make sure that he can kind of come into his own, it is going to be a big year 3 for him. And I think I like him this year. I think he'll be all right.
I think when it comes to the Ravens, I don't think they'll rush Bateman back because now teams are only playing for the 1 bye. So it's no longer the 2 buys. So it's really, if you're not going to be the top seed in the conference, you're still going to have to play wild card weekend. So basically at that point, you're just looking to have that home game. And really, I think the Ravens' only competition in their division are the Browns. I'm not buying the Steelers at all. They lost a lot on their offensive line.
Yes, Chuck and I are in agreement with the.
Until Ben goes out there, so it's until Ben goes out there and shows me that the elbow is 100%. I'm not buying the Steelers just yet. But I think the Ravens, I think they could get by because their offense is a run-first attack. So I think they can get by with rushing the ball and giving it to what's their running back's name? The kid out of Ohio State. Oh, it just slipped me. Declan.
Oh, you're talking about J.K. Dobbins?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Dobbins. I don't even think he went. Did he go to whatever?
Yeah.
Anywho, so
Dobbins on the Ravens.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
Ravens,
yeah.
but he's saying his college.
right. I think they're going to run a lot with Dobbins and Justice Hill and Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
And what I want to see them do is incorporate Mark Andrews back into that offense. He kind of had a down year last year. I want to see him give him more targets. I think he's probably one of the top 5 tight ends in the league, so they could lean on him a little bit more. And they could get Bateman back, early October, whatever. You still have a lot of the season left at that point. So I don't think they're going to rush him. And maybe, Hollywood Brown takes that next step that we've all been waiting for him to do. And maybe he, carves out a nice little piece of the offense for himself. So I think the Ravens will be fine. I'm not too worried about Bateman. I think the key for them is for him to get healthy because the Ravens probably make the playoffs. So you want him later on in the season instead of rushing him back from a groin injury and having
get hurt again. Yeah.
They had a top defense last year.
I was going to say the defense, too, was a big part of that.
Too, So. The Ravens play the old school smash mouth football where they're going to run the ball and then they're going to play hard-nosed defense. So that's exactly what they are. So that's why I'm not too worried about a wide receiver on that team, missing a couple of weeks. And it's key that he's getting the surgery, which hopefully fixes the problem. We see too many guys, try to rehab it instead of getting the surgery. And then after like 3 weeks, they have to get the surgery regardless. And it's still only August, like I said earlier. So he has time to
a whole month
to recover and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And we will see. I agree with you, Chuck, that there's enough going for the Ravens. They are a run-first team, though they are a passing team. Although when you are down, you see that run game dissipate as any team does.
But that's what we saw with them in Buffalo. In that wild card. The divisional.
Yeah, and Deck, to your point, I think that Hollywood Brown, even with the weight him putting on the weight, maybe getting used to his body, it's a big year 3 for him for sure. Because besides the route running, it's just catching the ball. Because it's not like Lamar Jackson is so inaccurate that he's not hitting these guys in stride. Sometimes he just was not catching. He was not, the sure hands that you want him to be. So it's going to be a big year 3 for him. And the defense will be huge. The defense keeping them in games and allowing the running game to do what it has to do. Because J.K. Dobbins really didn't. He had a few games where he shined last year. But hopefully they give him the keys to the offense and allow him to be more of a workhorse back. I know they have, a 3-prong attack in the backfield, but
I think
he's talented enough.
I think they're all about the scheme as opposed to one player as being a running back on the Ravens.
Yeah.
I think that's where they'll lean towards, because, they are a run-first team. That is their scheme, and I think they'll be fine, and they'll probably run the ball even more with Bateman out now. And that's crazy and it goes to your guys' point about the receivers in Baltimore is that relying on a rookie receiver so much that it's going to hurt them greatly that they're going to miss him until the end of September, where he hasn't even made his NFL debut yet. So,
yeah, no, agree. Another rookie that I want to make note of is Trevor Lawrence, because Chuck, as you said, they're playing on Saturday, but Urban Meyer, who he's had a few mentions on this show for some of his bizarre roster decisions. He's at it again and has not decided on who's going to be the starter even for this preseason game between Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew, who Trevor has been really good. The consensus is that he's been better than Minshew so far in practice. And this is the generational talent, right? The consensus generational talent, your number 1 overall pick. Fans, just on the sake of fans, for the first preseason game, like to not just say, hey, you know what, Trevor Lawrence is going to start was a little odd to me. And I think ultimately, and Deck, I'll ask you, I'll kick this to you. This might be a nothing, or it could be another misstep by Meyer and what he believes is the right decisions for this team. What do you make of the potential circus that might be Jacksonville? I mean, the good team still, but Urban Meyer, to me, not looking like the head coach that you want him to be, making the right decisions for this roster.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, Urban Meyer. I mean, you can, if you feel more confident in your job security and confident in the future of this team, that you want to trot out Trevor Lawrence for a quarter and a half in the preseason as opposed to 2 series like you would for the starting quarterback, that like you would treat him like a future franchise guy.
Yeah.
By all means, wouldn't be the first questionable thing you did, at least this month. I mean, I'm waiting for Trevor Lawrence to go line up at tight end. Really, is the only thing that's missing from this. I don't know why he would possibly. I think first of all, I think Gardner Minshew. They should have traded him to Indianapolis. It's not a knock on him because he wasn't even that terrible the past 2 years in Jacksonville. I would have traded him to Indy. I mean, actually, now that the news came out this week that Wentz is going to go, probably going to start week 1, I would have shipped him away somewhere at least. I don't think this is a guy that you should keep on your roster. Not that Trevor Lawrence can't learn anything from Gardner Minshew, but kinda. I mean,
yeah.
Why are you keeping him around? If you're gonna even start somebody else, it's gonna be an older guy, not a 23-year-old third-year quarterback that was drafted in the 6th round is all of a sudden going to, be in a competition with the guy you just drafted to be the future. Like
they're trying to make this competition.
Yeah, Andrew Luck. Nobody was starting over Andrew Luck. Like Curtis Painter was not starting over Andrew Luck in one of the preseason when they drafted him in 2012. It's just it's mind-boggling. I know he's saying he doesn't know who's going to start. He better be lying, or else he's just an idiot. I mean, really, we are hard on him, but this is just like the straws. Like you can tell, I wouldn't even be surprised if he was a one and done as a coach this year, just based on how he's been running this team so far. Everything, like you have Trevor Lawrence, and for some reason, your entire team. Like I'm not high on the Jaguars. I'll play with them in Madden, but that's for one reason. Number 16.
Yeah.
I'm not playing for number 15, Tim Tebow at tight end. I'm not. Wait, no, who's 15 now? Gardner Minshew. Excuse me, number 85, Tim Tebow at tight end. I'm definitely not playing for Gardner Minshew, number 15, in Madden. So what is this team really? What positive energy is this team really constructed? You got Travis Etienne, who you shouldn't have even drafted, but he was, Trevor Lawrence's college teammate. You got James Robinson, who's a hell of a running back, who for some reason you decided to draft a running back in the 1st round, but now you're going to send that running back out for some receiver reps. Yep. This is not college. This is not college football. And I think the sooner that's conveyed between hiring the guy who just got fired for being a racist in college and now treating NFL players like they're still in college. I mean, it is a mess in Jacksonville right now. And if Trevor Lawrence isn't starting this game, and if there's any doubt that he's starting week 1 by at least week 2 of the preseason, then Urban Meyer is doing something colossally wrong. You don't go and bring in a guy, draft him 1st overall, and act like Gardner Minshew is a more viable option to start this game. To start the season, besides if you want to lose games. I mean, it's no disrespect to Minshew, but why would you even think about not starting?
You saw him last season. You saw what he was.
It's pretty,
Chuck, what are your thoughts?
Well, unlike Declan, before I start that, I have not been a big fan of Meyer's tenure so far. I think he's made a lot of stupid, dumb decisions. But I haven't been on the field. Yeah. Right. I know. But I'm not reading too much into this whole Lawrence Minshew quarterback competition. I think this was just more of Meyer just giving the company line and not just rewarding Lawrence, with the keys, to the offense and to the franchise just yet. I think you still want him to go out there and, play to his fullest potential throughout the preseason before you label him as, the week 1 starter. I think a lot goes into being named that guy. And maybe, Lawrence might fall off if he knows, hey, I don't have nothing to worry about. Let me just coast through the preseason and just start getting ready for, September 11th or whenever they get off. So I think this was just a company line, but I do agree with Declan. If we get approaching week 1 and Lawrence is not the starter, then eyebrows are definitely going to be raised because why is this guy who was deemed, the next Peyton Manning, the next Andrew Luck, the next, savior of the quarterback world is not starting week 1 and can't beat out a 6th round or whatever Minshew was, whatever draft round he was, why can't he beat him out? Then I would start to really question what's going on down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think one thing I'll say as far as Trevor Lawrence goes is he's been good for a very long time without any competition, right? Like it's not like he's resting on his laurels and I don't have to try any harder. High school, college, he's been known as the guy for so long that I don't know if that impacts him if he's given the keys earlier than anticipated. I don't think he takes time off because he still has a lot to prove, being the 1st overall pick and trying to lead this team to victory. I feel like Meyer he's faltering from the beginning, when he even thinking that Tebow was an option at tight end. And even that situation to me is one that is like, why do it? Why even put yourself in that situation? It reminds me of the Jets and, the circus that what was the Jets in New York, where there's just decisions. Damn it. All right. There's no is. All right. I believe in this team to not be the same laughingstock that they were in the past. But as far as Jacksonville goes, like the decisions they make that will lead to just the media frenzy that just is avoidable in some cases. So I just, Deck, I'm on the same page with you. I think that Lawrence should be named sooner rather than later, the week 1 starter, because it's nice that you want to. Competition is what every coach is talking about. We want to make sure that there's competition at every position, but we can keep it a buck and keep it real and say that there's no competition at that position, that at the end of the day, Minshew is not going to win that out. He just isn't. And it's okay to say that. And it's not like fans look any differently at it. And I don't believe that Lawrence will work any less hard to be that quarterback that everyone has billed him as. Because you can't say Peyton Manning in the same breath as Trevor Lawrence, and then you're going to go up week 1 and just kind of like phone it in. Still a lot.
Steph, to go off what you said, and I'm happy you brought this up, Lawrence has been the guy since, high school, going undefeated and everything. When he comes to the NFL, he's not going to have that same type of success early on where he's having,
he may not.
and just basically, walking to a championship. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is more of a reality check where this is now the pros, the professionals. It's not going to be college, and it's definitely not going to be high school. So maybe this was just a reality check. Understand that you have to work for everything that you gain in this league. So maybe that's the key he's trying to take, because some of these guys that are drafted early, they've had success, since they play, Pop Warner and Pee Wee football.
Yeah.
And now NFL, and they're going to take a lot of hard hits from guys much bigger than them. So maybe this was just Urban trying to get Lawrence, because think about Urban, has dealt with guys coming from high school to college. So maybe he's just taking that same approach as this is a different ball game now. This isn't what you're accustomed to. So maybe that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, I just think that what Urban Meyer needs to realize is that it's not the same, because you're dealing with grown men. You're not dealing with kids. You're not recruiting Trevor Lawrence to go play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Believe me. If you could recruit Trevor Lawrence, he's not playing for the Jaguars. He's definitely not going to Jacksonville. So I don't know. I just think that to bring that philosophy to the NFL, many have tried it, many have failed. I look at Nick Saban, who's one of the greatest college coaches of all time, and that philosophy didn't work for him, and that's why he's still back in college. So didn't work out in Miami.
and you know what? We will see what happens there. I don't have much faith, but I will be excited to watch or to just follow what's going on with Trevor Lawrence and how that plays out. But yeah, Deck, I think you hit it on the nose there as far as Meyer. He's not. I see a year, this year, and that's it.
It could be a one and done, and that's the last thing you want with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you've seen what it did to Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. You have him learn 4 offenses in 3 years, and all of a sudden
Sam Darnold as well. I mean,
yeah, totally. And then it fizzled out.
Quarterbacks. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I gotta say it. Daniel Jones too. I mean, coming in Pat Shermer's.
Gotta say it.
It's so true, though. It's so true. I gotta say it. I gotta mention it.
I mean, if you're gonna mention Daniel Jones, I also feel like that practice, that video we had.
Can
in the
we
chat.
talk about that? Because I was actually
there. Real quick. I mean, please.
Yeah, sure. Please. I was there. It was funny. I mean, that was funny. I just remember looking at that.
It was bad.
Well, okay. Here's the thing. First of all,
explain to the people what happened, though, because for those who didn't see it.
So a lot of the video wasn't conveyed into what actually went down on the field. A whistle was blown before he threw the pass. Mm-hmm. So it was like a dead ball. Will Hernandez let somebody in, like literally. I got
pass rush got there
stands because it was like Eric Flowers, like a turnstile, the Midtown Tunnel, right up the gut, right in his face. The play's pretty much dead. There's not a receiver in sight. He chucks it. I think what proves that is the linebacker was not expecting that, as the play was pretty much fizzled out, and he hits it off his hands and into someone else's hands. The ball was right at his chest, so it was a late thing. Listen, the video, it was funny. It is really funny because it looks ridiculous. There's not a receiver in sight. It looks like a miscommunication, everything. But the truth is that the play wasn't really active. However, I thought Jones looked all right. I didn't get to see him too much because they were mostly on the opposite side of the field. We were 3 rows off towards the Giants tunnel. and they were kind of doing more first-team reps. But I got a nice look at Clayton Thorson, third-string quarterback. I'm not sure if that's going to do anything for us here, but I thought Jones looked pretty good. He got busy with Slayton. Of course, there was a ball in the end zone right in front of us when they were on this side of the field. A ball in the end zone, a nice throw. Ingram goes up for it right off his fingertips, and the whole crowd just lets him hear it. I mean, that's horrible, first of all, to have that happen to you. But it looks like he might be in midseason form, unfortunately. I mean, that is the guy that, statistically speaking, kept the Giants out of the playoffs last year with his big drop against Philly. I know it's crazy. They were not a playoff team. They were 6-10. But statistically speaking, that drop kept them out of the playoffs, and it looks like it even kept practice in jeopardy there too. So I thought Jones was all right. Listen, the defense is really good, and you could tell how Patrick Graham runs that team, runs that defense. They are really good. And between the linebacking core, the secondary is pretty good. They added Adoree. This is a team that you could see anywhere between 5 to 9 wins. There's a wide window, and it does start a lot with number 8 in that offense. It's nice to have Barkley back. They're a much better team when he's back. Statistically speaking, that offense runs better. Statistically speaking, Jones runs that offense better when Barkley's on the field. And now with the addition of Kenny Golladay, he was suiting up, getting some work in. Wasn't in full pads, but he was wearing a jersey, catching some passes, throwing some balls to fans. Young Joka, Kadarius Toney looked really good. So I'm excited for the team, cautiously optimistic. We'll see how it goes. Joe Judge, by the way, this is my last anecdote, and I know we're running out of time and I'm rambling here, but Joe Judge, you can hear him yelling from midfield. Not even an angry yell, just the way he talks. He's just a loud guy, and he seems like the right guy for New York. I'm a big Joe Judge fan. I really like what he's done so far, and I think that he can lead them to good things this year.
Very optimistic.
How else would I be? Are you muted, Steph?
Wow, that's it.
Hold on. My audio went out, did it?
It did.
Yeah.
It did. But now it's back. Now you're
Where, yeah, because I lost you guys. I'm like, oh, it must not be my Wi-Fi. You know, it's tough sometimes. It's been good the last couple of episodes.
I haven't heard any free
skipping and repeating. Yeah. But I was just gonna say that I think as far as the Giants go, like I'm not a Giants hater. You know, like hope you guys do well. I just think it's a very optimistic take on what they have going on.
This is a team that could bottom out and have 5 wins. This is a team that could have 8 or 9. I mean, the defense is really good. Top 10 defense that got better throughout the years, throughout the offseason. So,
Chuck, let's go Jets. How about that?
Definitely. And tomorrow, the Jets will win the Snoopy Bowl.
Yeah. At least you guys have something going for you, the Snoopy Bowl.
I love it. But as we wrap it up, I just want to let you guys know, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to all Hit List content on YouTube, Facebook, and IG. Our handle is SportsHL. Again, that is SportsHL. Coming up on Monday, we're going to have us again at 1 and 2, Smoke and Mirrors. Love to see us. And then on Tuesday, you're going to have the Fan Zone with Eminem, Mike, and my main boy, Manny. So you can look out for that 5 o'clock on Tuesdays, and then back with us on Friday again. I want to thank Chuck for coming on, filling the seat for Greg, being our special guest. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Stephen Polis, alongside Declan Krogman. And like I said, my boy Chuck, we appreciate y'all. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Take care.